Have you ever realized that your kindness might be the very thing dragging you into hell? That every time you're forgiving, every time you're compassionate, every time you humble yourself just to keep a relationship alive, you're not being appreciated. You're being suffocated. If you're a super empath, someone who feels others' emotions even more deeply than they do, someone with an open heart and boundless compassion, then you need to face a painful but necessary truth. The narcissist doesn't need your love. They need control over you. And your kindness isn't changing them. It's only confirming to them that they've successfully locked you in a cage of manipulation you don't even realize you're in. You're fighting with your heart while they're fighting with tactics. You lead with trust, they lead with deception. You open up to build, they wear a mask to destroy. And while you believe your patience will eventually heal the relationship, they're using that very patience to drain you dry. This is not a relationship, this is a battlefield you can't see. And you're always the one losing, even if you don't understand why. You think that if you're good enough, loyal enough, forgiving enough, one day they'll finally see your worth. But the truth is, they already do. They've known from the start how amazing you are. They know you're honest. They know you love unconditionally. But they don't cherish it. They exploit it. They're not moved. They're opportunistic. So if you keep trying the same old way, you're not saving the relationship. You're enabling your own destruction. I'm not here to tell you to stop being kind. I'm not telling you to give up your goodness, because that's your sacred gift to the world. But I am here to tell you this. Being kind to a narcissist is emotional suicide. And if you want to reclaim your freedom, your peace, your clarity, the life you were always meant to live, you only need to do one thing. Not a long list of complicated strategies, not a deep psychological lecture, just one thing. That will change the entire game. Watch this video until the end, because what you're about to hear might be the last dose of truth your soul has been desperately crying out for, not to change them, but to make sure you never need them again. Before you can win this invisible war, you must understand the two forces at play. You, the super empath, and them, the narcissist. No, this is not a normal relationship with disagreements and misunderstandings that just need to be worked through. This is a collision between light and darkness, between sincerity and manipulation, between a soul that loves and a hollow ego that survives by draining others of their energy. As a super empath, you carry one of the most powerful gifts a human being can possess: deep sensitivity, boundless compassion, and an unshakable belief in the goodness of others. But that very gift becomes your greatest vulnerability in the hands of a narcissist, because you don't just want to understand them, you believe that if you love them enough, if you're patient enough, you can awaken the humanity buried within them. But the harsh truth is this: they're not asleep, they're hiding. They don't hurt you by accident, they do it on purpose. They're not broken in the way you imagine. They're just skilled performers playing the victim to keep you around. They're not seeking love. They're seeking your emotional reaction to assert control. Every tear you shed, every apology you whisper, every moment you walk on eggshells to not hurt them is proof to them that they still hold your soul in their hands. And you need to know this: narcissists don't build relationships. They build stages to dominate the psychological game. They don't see you as a unique, valuable individual. They see you as a tool to inflate their warped sense of self. They don't know how to love. They only know how to weaponize your love to maintain their illusion of power. And the most painful part? They don't feel guilt. The more compassion you show, the more control they take. The more you yield, the further they push. The harder you fight for them, the more you lose yourself. It's time you see this for what it truly is. This is not love. This is an unspoken contract where you pay with your self-respect, your time, your peace, all in exchange for fleeting moments of counterfeit warmth they strategically offer to keep you enduring the pain. And when you understand this, when you truly see who you are and who they are, you'll finally realize you don't have to save anyone. You just have to rescue yourself from the role of the unrecognized martyr. People often say, "Be kind no matter how cruel the world gets." But when you're facing a narcissist, that quote needs a rewrite. Be kind, but never let your kindness become your chains. Because kindness, without limits, without boundaries, without conditions, can become the silent weapon that slowly destroys you. You think that if you just hold back one more time, yield a little more, stay patient a bit longer, maybe one day they'll finally see you're worthy of love. But the truth is, they already see it, and they're using it as a tool to control you. A narcissist doesn't value your efforts. They're not moved by your sacrifices. Every time you back down to keep the peace, they don't appreciate it. They score a point. They think, she still cares. He still wants to fix things. I still have them. And then they continue their manipulation with a fake smile, a hollow hug, and an apology that never leads to change. You mistake that for hope, but in reality it's just a breadcrumb, a reward to keep you stuck in their cycle of control. Face the truth, your kindness doesn't reach their heart, because there's no love there. It only activates their finely tuned manipulation system, where every kind gesture is translated as weak, controllable, exploitable. And the more you try to prove you're worthy of love, the more you forget this truth. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Super empaths often carry a beautiful but dangerous belief that everyone can change, that everyone deserves a second chance. But you need to remember this. Love is not pity, and forgiveness does not mean allowing someone to trample over you. Kindness without limits is the very blade the narcissist uses to cut your soul into pieces, until you no longer recognize who you are. And do you know what the most bitter part is? It's not just the narcissist who hurts you, it's your own hope that refuses to die. The hope that if you're good enough, they'll love enough, that if you try hard enough, they'll be kind enough. But the more you persist, the more calculating they become. The more you endure, the more dangerous they grow. So it's time to understand this. Kindness doesn't always mean saying yes. Sometimes real kindness is having the courage to say, "That's enough." If you are a super empath, someone who feels deeply, intuitively, and intensely, then you've likely experienced things others can't even begin to understand. You don't just sense other people's emotions, you absorb them. You don't just listen to their pain, you carry it as if it were your responsibility. And because of that, you are extraordinary. But you're also the one most deeply wounded when caught in the grip of a narcissist. As a super empath, you can't turn away from someone else's suffering. When the narcissist shares their painful past, you don't doubt. You feel compassion. When they act cold, angry, or erratic, you don't walk away. You search for the cause. When they hurt you and blame it on their own unresolved wounds, you don't protect yourself. You try to heal them with your own brokenness. And here lies the tragedy. You think you're saving someone who's lost, but the truth is, you're being led into the most intricate maze of manipulation. A narcissist doesn't want healing. They want control. They don't seek love. They seek an endless supply of emotional energy to sustain their hollow, distorted ego. And when they find you, someone so empathetic you're willing to feel pain on someone else's behalf, they see a goldmine that never runs dry. With every forgiveness, they know you haven't let go. With every explanation, they know you're still hoping. With every tear, every outburst, every sleepless night, they know they still hold power. And they don't manipulate with overt threats, but with deeply psychological tactics. Prolonged silence, blame shifting, playing the victim, twisting the narrative. They make you question yourself, your worth, and even your ability to tell truth from deception. And the most painful part? You begin to think you're the problem. But you are not the problem. You are the light. You are the open heart. You are the one who still believes in goodness in a world full of lies, and for that very reason the only thing you need to do to escape this cruel cycle is not to fight, but to stop. Stop emotionally engaging. Stop being fuel to the machine that is draining your soul day by day. Stop emotional engagement. Sounds simple, but for a super empath, it may be the bravest act you'll ever perform, because what you long for most is connection, healing, mutual understanding. But emotional disengagement is not just an outward act. It's an inner revolution. It's a declaration that says, I will no longer live by someone else's emotions. I will no longer define my worth by the eyes of someone incapable of love. This is where you begin to unhook your emotional attachment from someone who never deserved your sacred energy. No explanations, no apologies, no attempts to clarify, no falling into the trap of a clean ending. Because a narcissist never needs closure. They need you trapped in the endless loop where you keep hoping and they keep controlling. You owe them nothing now, not out of hatred, but because you've finally begun to love yourself. Picture a river. You are the flowing water, and they are the heavy rock lying still in the stream. You believed that if you were soft enough, patient enough, the rock would eventually dissolve. But the truth is, if you keep flowing toward them, it is you who will run dry. And that's when you must change course. You don't disappear, you don't change who you are, you simply stop flowing toward destruction. On that journey, you'll face guilt. Your mind, conditioned to sacrifice, will whisper, am I being too harsh? What if they really change? Am I abandoning someone who needs me? That's the instinct of a super empath. But you must remember, you're not abandoning anyone. You're finally choosing not to abandon yourself. And when you stand firm in that emotional detachment, when you refuse to be pulled back into the game, when you stop allowing your heart to be exploited, that is the moment you step into the most powerful phase of being a super empath, the power of self-possession. You are no longer controlled. You are no longer emotionally hijacked. You no longer use compassion to anchor yourself to someone incapable of love. Instead, you rise, not in rage, but in conscious silence. And believe me when I say this, the conscious silence of a super empath who has awakened is the one thing a narcissist fears most, because it means the doors are closed, the access is gone, and they have no way in anymore. Where you, the super empath, has finally stopped emotionally engaging with the narcissist, something strange will happen. You'll feel empty, not angry, not sad, not expectant, but not yet free either. It's the quiet space between two worlds, where you're leaving behind a familiar battlefield and stepping into a new land where you get to redefine your own worth. For so long you've lived like a mirror, reflecting the emotions, expectations, breakdowns, and fury of others. You did everything to avoid being misunderstood, overlooked, or abandoned. But now, as you let go of all that effort, you no longer need to be seen. Because you've finally begun to see yourself, and at that very moment, your true power is reborn. Reclaiming your power doesn't mean becoming harsh. You don't need to turn cold, detached, or unfeeling. Quite the opposite. You remain who you are, warm-hearted, deeply intuitive, and capable of authentic connection. But this time you choose where your energy flows. You no longer allow your emotions to be driven by others. You create boundaries, not to shut people out, but to protect what is sacred within you. And the first step in reclaiming that power is this: let go of the need for validation from the narcissist. Yes, you don't need their apology. You don't need closure. You don't need them to finally understand. Because they won't. Not because you're not enough, but because they lack the capacity to see another human being as inherently valuable. If you're still waiting for their acknowledgement, you're still using their measuring stick to define your worth. Dear Super Empath, it's time to change the reference point of your life. The only validation you truly need is from within. Turn inward and ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my heart? Am I honoring the sensitivity and depth I've been gifted with? And when you can honestly answer yes to yourself, you'll stop needing anyone else to see your value. Next, you rebuild your self-esteem, not through the distorted lens of others, but through the eyes of a soul that has walked through darkness and lived to tell the tale. You're no longer the one who was weak because you were hurt. You're the one who became strong because you refused to be defined by that pain. You're no longer someone who loved the wrong person. You're someone brave enough to love, to trust, to give, and wise enough to walk away when that love isn't honored. Your empathy hasn't disappeared, it's still there, but this time it's directed toward the right person, you. You'll begin to see clearly who deserves access to your emotional space. You'll no longer feel the need to please everyone. You won't explain yourself to people who've chosen not to understand you. You won't apologize for being sensitive, because that very sensitivity is your superpower, the reason you see what others miss. And most of all, you'll never again trade your inner peace for the sake of a toxic connection. This is where the Super Empath transforms empathy into a weapon of light, no longer to wound themselves, but to guide the way to healing, rebirth, and an entirely new way of living, a life that needs no one's permission to be fully, unapologetically you. You are not just a survivor of narcissistic abuse. You are someone who walked away and chose healing instead of repeating the cycle. That is the greatest victory of all. That is the unshakable, quiet reclaiming of your power. And when you stand in that space, fully sovereign, with a healed heart and a clear gaze, the narcissist will have zero power over you, not because you got revenge, not because they changed, but because you finally stopped giving them the power to hurt you. You've come to the end of an old chapter, where pain is no longer your destiny but your teacher, where tears are no longer signs of weakness but witnesses to a heart that once dared to love, dared to forgive, and now dares to let go. You, the Super Empath, don't need to become cold to protect yourself. You just need to become wise, and that wisdom is born from the darkness you've walked through, from the storm of emotions you once thought would drown you forever, but it didn't drown you. You rose. And not only did you rise, you soared. The narcissist cannot follow you where you're going, because where you're headed, there is no space for manipulation, no room for emotional games, no stage for exploiting goodness. You are stepping into a realm of peace, of self-possession, of compassion, placed exactly where it belongs. You no longer need to be recognized. You don't need an apology. You don't need closure, because you've learned the most powerful truth of all. Closure doesn't come from them, it comes from you. From the moment you stop seeking validation from someone who cannot give, from the second you say, "I am enough, I need no more," from the day you decide to sign your own certificate of worth. Now, every step you take isn't to please others, it's to serve your soul. Every decision you make no longer stems from the fear of losing someone, but from gratitude that you no longer lose yourself. You, Super Empath, were never born to be a victim. You were born to awaken. And you, with all your sensitivity, your depth, your honesty, and your pure love, you are living proof that light cannot be extinguished. It only needs to be directed toward the right place. Walk forward with this truth. You are not broken. You are being reshaped. You are not shattered, you are being refined. You are not destroyed, you are being restored. Hold your head high, because you didn't just survive, you triumphed. And that triumph isn't in making the narcissist pay. It's in choosing to no longer let them define your worth. The deepest revenge of a Super Empath is living a life of freedom, wholeness, and no longer bearing the fingerprints of the one who once hurt them. If you feel like you're on that journey, the journey of awakening, of healing, of reclaiming the right to own your own heart, keep going. Don't look back. The world needs your light, but not in the form of someone who suffers, in the form of someone who has learned how to love with wisdom. Subscribe to this channel if you are a Super Empath rising from the ruins. Together, we are building a community of powerful souls, no longer bowing down in pain, but walking forward in light and in freedom.